we have a new trailer for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is getting a Nintendo Switch 2 update. And my first thought was, yeah, it looks a little better, I guess. And then this, like, wait, whoa! Wait a second. I'm not used to my main series Pokemon games having 60 FPS and actually looking like they're being played on PC. Shadows? What is this? It all looks so good. So yeah, like that hit me way too hard. That's too smooth, too much fidelity. I don't like it. Except I love it, of course, because like that's insane. So it seems like the close-up rendering is just crazy. Now further off, yeah, it starts to kind of look pale and bland, but like that's what the Nintendo Switch 2 can do. Also, this is a game that was made for the Nintendo Switch, and they just updated it, which also like debunks everything. That gameplay right there, all of this proves it was never Game Freak's fault. The dishonesty of the Pokemon community for everyone to suddenly forget that the Nintendo Switch was made fun of back in 2017 because it launched underpowered, it launched comically weak, and then we had to hold on to it for 8 years. So a game coming out in 2022, yeah, it doesn't stand a chance, especially if you're trying to put in modern gameplay like open world. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was great. And look at it, they fixed the lake. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was great for bringing open world to Pokemon finally. That's what everyone's always wanted. And since Game Freak or Nintendo aren't going to develop for Steam or PC games, yeah, we need something like a Steam Deck, which is Nintendo Switch 2. This right here also debunks everything about Game Freak being lazy or Game Freak being greedy. I mean, the Game Freak being greedy thing is just one of the dumbest things imaginable, because if they wanted to print money, they have infinite opportunities to do so, like releasing a Master Collection. And if Game Freak was lazy, they wouldn't have used an entire generation of consoles to make completely new experiences. We went from Pokemon Let's Go to Pokemon Sword and Shield, then they added DLC for it, and then they just tried to take it further, perhaps too far because the Nintendo Switch couldn't handle it, with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. That they didn't just like rehash everything over and over and over again. They kept progressing throughout the entire generation. And Game Freak is just so lazy and so greedy, they're making this a free update. You're not paying $20 for a Pokemon Scarlet and Violet upgrade pack or $10 or whatever. It's a free update. You don't have to purchase the game again. You don't need an upgrade pack. It's free. So they decided to re-render a 3-year-old game for a free update when they have another main series game coming out, and who even knows what's happening for like the future of Pokemon games. It's too smooth. I don't like it. I'm just not prepared for such a thing. Also, you gotta realize this is a compressed Twitter video because the trailer is on the Nintendo Today app. So it's like a trailer from an app being uploaded to Twitter, which I don't even think does 60 FPS. I don't even record in 30 FPS. So you have to actually watch the video for yourself on Cerebee's page to actually see how crazy this is to get this full experience. But even then, you can tell like, oh wow, that's a lot smoother. That's a lot crazier. And shows Game Freak was not lazy at all. And just debunks everything everyone said about Game Freak for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And then the nonsense that happened with Pokemon Sword and Shield, another incredible Pokemon game, but one tree graphic looked bad, so I hate it. Wait, I just realized there's a lot more Pokemon spawning in, right? That has crazy amounts of game implications because one, it's harder to just walk through the game, but two, shiny hunting gets easier because you just reset your camp and then more Pokemon are able to spawn. With Pokemon Let's Go, there were spawn caps for every place. But now with this, like, they just unlock the games, like, just let everything spawn as much as it wants. I don't know. Or maybe, there's no way. There's no way, like, this many Pokemon ever spawn while just walking on past. Bro, it's littered with Pokemon! Which would be, like, so crazy for, like, competitive farming or, like, getting... Because, like, technically, this is also good for TMs and materials and stuff, and then getting shinies. So if Pokemon VGC wasn't all cheaters like Wolf Glick and every top player... And now, there's like reasons to revisit the game for shiny hunting completion? And that's a crazy little detail. But let's see how the Pokemon community is handling their entire narrative being a lie. Now, this just... Well, I'm not even counting this one because it got ratioed. Buy the game again if you want more FPS and less bugs. Is there a release date, or is it going to be available as soon as Switch 2 is out? Confirmed for June 5th. So yeah, like, Switch 2, update your games that get it, and then that's just going to be crazy. But just the people that have so little faith in Game Freak for literally no reason. There's no reason to have ever thought Game Freak was lazy or greedy, or they didn't try, or any of that stuff, just from the games themselves. It also shows that Pokemon, I can't even call them fans. People in the Pokemon community have no life experience, which is why they're super fragile and refuse to work for their things. They have no competitive experience, which is why they defend cheating like their life depends on it and worship cheaters like Wolf Glick. And then they have no gaming experience with how they complain about the prices of things. Oh no, you need to own a $300 console and more than a single Pokemon game. The horror! Unacceptable. Nintendo Switch 2 games are going to be $80, even though they are objective upgrades to Nintendo Switch 1 games. And if you take in a Nintendo Switch 1 game with DLC, hey, look at that, it's $80 or more. It also shows they've never played a AAA game before, because almost all of them launch with much worse performance issues and more bugs and glitches, which is crazy because, like, on the PC, they have 70 to over 100 gigabytes of storage that they need to use. So they have, like, so much more to work with. PC specs nowadays are crazy. That's like, wow, that actually needs, like, a pretty good computer just to run, like, trash. And Game Freak was making open world games on the Nintendo Switch. Come on. So yeah, if it costs extra, I'm sure making it garbage was the plan all along, and then charging for updates on the new hardware. These people are just too stupid to be saved. Like, this person needs the internet taken away from them. They are that stupid. They have lost the privilege because they cannot function. Don't give them too much credit. This is how the game should have been on release. Fixing a broken game that shouldn't have been broken in the first place isn't an achievement. They really cannot cope that it was impossible for this to be the case. Also, since they're just kind of like putting it out for free, this is what their development build of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet looks like. This is how they made the game, and they had to take it down substantially to make it barely run on the Nintendo Switch. And here's one we see getting a good ratio, that if a tweet has over 1% likes, that's above average. So yeah, this is agreed with because of brain rot and impossible levels of stupidity and toxicity. Yeah, impossible stupidity. They obviously weren't paying attention to the Switch's specs when they were developing the game. God forbid they tried to develop a good game, and they just had to keep dialing it back more and more until it could run on the piece of trash that's the Nintendo Switch 1. It did run like that if you played on proper hardware, emulated on a gaming PC that could actually handle that game, which is another really weird thing, that the Pokemon community loves piracy and hacking and cheating, and emulation and ROMs and ROM hacks and all that stuff, but then they couldn't make the jump that, like, oh wait, it's not Game Freak's fault, because if I run this on an emulator, it runs great on a PC, and it looks great on a PC. But then they still blame Game Freak for the Nintendo Switch not being able to handle it. I like the way you think, but that proves you wrong, and then their entire thing is about being toxic against people that prove them wrong. They made too good of a game that the Nintendo Switch couldn't handle. I'm not going to blame the developers when they were restricted to mid-tier 2015 hardware to make a game in 2022. And then we got people just lying because their entire life is about being toxic and negative over a children's game. We got Pokemon Scarlet and Violet has gone from having the worst performance out of any Pokemon game to the first mainline game to run at 60 FPS. Kind of poetic. How? It was always this! That's the thing. It was always this, and was only held back by Nintendo Switch 2. So, like, yeah, technically it's the first game to run at 60 FPS, because it's the first Pokemon game to get the Switch 2 upgrade. What stupidity is this? The game actually running well, maybe if it wasn't butt ugly, it would be the best Pokemon game. That's what I mean, like, this is just the stupidity I hate about what social media has done to people in society, that no one can ever admit they were wrong. Even if, like, something in the future changes that. Maybe you were justified initially, but then they responded to your complaining, and then it's still never enough, because at some point it's like, oh, well, I was wrong that Game Freak is lazy and greedy and bad if they actually did the thing I said they would never do. I don't get it. And then, like, yeah, you just look at this, like, what do you mean it looks ugly? This is the Pokemon that everyone imagined in their heads when they were just like, whoa, we get, like, big 3D Pokemon game. Crazy. Now that it's running at 60 FPS, the only issues left are barren open world, no, pointless towns and exploration. I'll agree with the pointless towns, but the exploration's still really good inside the game. I was actually thinking about this yesterday when I was like, man, the towns kind of don't make sense in like, I wish there was better towns to it, but at the same time, they still knew they were developing for the Nintendo Switch. They didn't try to make a top-of-the-line, like, PC game for Pokemon. They still just, like, overshot it and had to keep dialing it back. So yeah, like, now we'll see what's possible on the Nintendo Switch, too. Lukewarm story. That's just another lie. That's just, like, desperately looking for reasons to hate because your life is 100% toxic and negative. That this is one of the best stories that we had in Pokemon. It all came together, and it had motion. It had hit. It was great. I don't know, still story-wise the worst? Bro, Gen 5 story is hands down easily the worst. This crushes it, but people just can't cope. Yeah, alright. So, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet looks great. Verlisify always right. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.